Good morning to you. I'm going to show you this morning how to install Lazarus and how to make use of SQLiteManager in order to create a database so that you can use Lazarus with SQLite. At the bottom here I've got all the links to the different sites that you'll need to download your different software. First and foremost would be to download Lazarus. As you can see, I'm using a 64-bit Windows 7, so I would be downloading the 64-bit version of Lazarus. In order to check what version of Windows you have, the easiest and most correct way would be to go to Control Panel. Make sure this option is changed to large icons here, and to click on System, and under System it will tell you system type 64-bit or 32-bit. That applies to Windows 8 as well as Windows 7. Okay, so I would click on Download and it'll take you to the download link, in which case you can download Lazarus. I've already got it downloaded and saved on a DVD, so I don't need to re-download it, but just for this purpose I will show you what you need to do to download it. As you can see, it comes up, you click on Save, you remember the exact location where the file is downloading to, you click on Save, and it will save Lazarus. So that's Lazarus. The next piece of data that you'll need will be SQLiteManager. There's the web address at the top here. As you can see, there's the download link for it for Windows, as I'm using Windows. This is currently version 4.3.10. So you can just click on Download, click on Save, and it'll start saving it. The other important file that you'll need would be to the SQLite itself, these DLL files. Depending on which version you're using, I actually still, even though I'm running a 64-bit, I'm still using a 32-bit, which you can do. These DLL files are important. They need to be saved into the location where your project is going to be stored. Okay, so for my first Lazarus SQLite project, I'm going to go and create a new folder on my C drive called Lazarus SQL. As you can see, I've got a shortcut here to go to Windows Explorer. If you can't use that, you can always click on Start, go to All Programs, Accessories, and Windows Explorer is available there. Navigate to Computer, double click on C drive. As you can see, here's a new folder option. Click on that, type in Lazarus and SQLite. Okay. So that will be where I'll store my SQLite project, and where I don't need to install Lazarus or SQLite into that folder, but that's where I'm going to store my Delphi Lazarus project. Now to go ahead and install the different software packages after they've downloaded. Firstly, we're going to install Lazarus. So this was the file that I downloaded. It's just a simple double click, say yes, click on OK, click on Next. I'm happy to leave Lazarus on my C drive under the Lazarus folder. I'm quite happy for that. Click on Next. I leave the default as it is. Click on Next, and I'm happy for it to create a start menu, so called Lazarus. So click on Next. I even am happy to have a desktop icon called Lazarus, so click on Create a Desktop Icon, click on Next, click on Install. and Lazarus will now install on this machine. Okay, so the Lazarus installation is nearing its end, and so we're waiting for the finish button. And there it is, the finish button. So now Lazarus is officially installed. The next thing that I would recommend you do is to install the SQLiteManager. That way we know that we've got a method of creating a database. I'm happy to leave it on the C drive. As you can see, C program files, x86, SQL Labs, SQLiteManager. Next, install. I'll pause this video while the installation progresses, and we'll start it just before it's finished. Okay, the installation doesn't take long. It came up with one prompt asking me, am I sure I want to install it? I said yes. Now I click on finish. So here you basically have the two key features, Lazarus, which can help you with Delphi, and your SQLiteManager, which you'll use to create your database. Now these DLL files, these are the ones that I was telling you. You need to extract them and put them in the folder for where your projects are going to be stored. So at the moment, as you saw, I created the SQLite Lazarus SQLite folder. This is where my projects are going to be stored. So what I'm going to do is extract this 32-bit version. Even though I'm using a 64-bit system, you can still do it. I'm going to extract it to the folder Lazarus SQLite. Click on OK, go extract. Once extracted, this is what I wanted. It is in that folder. If I go there, double click, the DLL file is there. Now this is not important for creating the database, it's more important for communicating with Lazarus and SQLite. So the first thing I'm going to go and do is create my database using the SQLiteManager. Okay, so I've encountered an error. It's missing some DLL files. I'll need to discover what DLL files these are and then come back to you on that. Okay, since this is a Windows base installation, I've noticed I don't have any Microsoft Visual C++ runtime files, and this is the reason why I'm getting this MSVCR. It obviously stands for Microsoft Virtual C++ Runtime 100, which would mean version 10, but since they've got a later version, I will go for version 2013, and you can see their knowledge base article 2019667, which will give you more information as to what the exact file location, what links to go to, and which ones you can download. I'm going to pause this video while I go ahead and download this file. Okay, I've downloaded the file and I've got it rented to my disk. I'm now going to install the 64-bit version of this, since I'm running a 64-bit OS. I'm going to click on install, clicking on next, and this will install the Microsoft Visual C++ runtime files that are required to run SQLiteManager. The setup is complete successfully. Clicking on close, and let's see if we open up our SQLiteManager if it still complains. Yes, it does. But I did notice that you can click on OK and you can continue to run the application after quite a few OKs. So I would recommend rather getting hold of the Visual Studio 2010 version. I'm going to try and install the 32-bit version and see if this does not help, because we don't want any errors on our system. Okay, that installation is also complete. Let's see if we're still getting our error message. Yes, we are. Okay. Let's try and see if we can create our database without any errors. If not, we know we need to download Visual C++ 2010 runtimes. As you can see, you've got an option here, New SQLite Database. That's the one we're going to choose. We're going to go and place this file in our folder where we're going to run our project from, which is at Lazarus SQLite. And we're going to rename this file to SQLtest1.db. Click on save. Okay, it refuses to create. So let me go back and get hold of the runtime files and I'll come back. Okay, so I've downloaded both the 64-bit and 32-bit version of the Microsoft Visual C++ 2010 runtime files. I'm going to attempt to install the 64-bit one and see if that fixes the problem that I'm having with SQLiteManager. As you can see, there it says Visual C++ 2010 runtime libraries with Service Pack 1. That's great. Install. Okay, that installation is finished. Let us minimize that and open up SQLiteManager. Nope, still not happy. Okay, we'll try the 32-bit version, see if that's happy. Okay, there we go. Okay, so SQLiteManager requires the 32-bit version of the Microsoft's Visual C++ runtime libraries. So now we can actually get to using the product, and to do that we click on New SQLite Database. From here, as I've said, we just create SQLtest1.db. Click on save. As you see, I had already created it, so you click on yes to replace it. Okay, this is the screen we want to see. Now basically, as you can see on the top here, you've got quite a few options. We're going to create a new table, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the plus sign, and it asks you for a table name. So I'm just going to call it student for now. Okay, and as you can see, here's another plus sign which will create a column of the table, and as you can see, it gives it a name. We don't want to call it column 1. I'm gonna change this to first name. As you know, anyone that's worked with databases, you can't have spaces in the name of columns, so hence I use an underscore, but you could easily take away the underscore and just merge the name together and call it first name. Each person is unique in how they want to name it, so I'm just choosing that. I'd also like to create another column called surname. Okay, and then I will create one final column just so that we've got 3 columns, and I'll call this subject, so we know what we're talking about. And as you can see here, I've left all the columns as text. These, as you can see, there's a primary key. This is to represent that that column should be a primary key. If you tick this option, it'll auto increment the primary key if it's an integer. Not null, meaning you can't submit a blank value. And then unique, meaning that you can't have any duplicates. It's got a check facility, it's got a default option, it's got a collate, and it's got a foreign key. So foreign key is normally used to map your primary key to another database where you can select and do more advanced querying. But in this, for this specific task, we're just going to create one database with 3 tables in it. So as you can see here, it's created the command that you would need if you ever wanted to go outside of SQL, outside of SQLite. You could use this command and it will create the database exactly whatever options you choose here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on create, and there's my student table. If I'm under the design tab and I click on student, you'll see it'll come up with my table information. If I click on data, it'll come up with my data information. But as you know, we haven't added any data, so this is where the fun part starts. We want to add some data. You can easily click on the table where you want to add data, and with the SQLiteManager, what's nice is it gives you a plus sign, so you can add a data. Here we go to our first name, and this box is used to enter whatever name you want to put in here. So I'm just going to call this Joe, which is a very common one that was taught in school. Joe, and his surname is always Joe Soap. Subject that he's taking is INF 2611, which is something that I'll be doing. So click on save, and your first record of your database is added. That's as simple as it comes with regards to this database. You can click on file, you can click on save, you can click on close, you can click on exit. It's actually saved the information already, so you don't need to add it. So I'm going to pause the video while I add another 2 extra rows. As you can see, I've come back, I've added my 3 students. I've given them their first name, surname, and I've added their subject. This row ID is auto generated by SQLite in order to keep the information in it unique. So from here I'm going to go to file and exit, and I'm finished using my SQLiteManager. And if I go to my Lazarus SQLite, you'll see there's my SQL test1.database file, and it says their database file. So for the next part, we're going to go into Lazarus, and we're going to create a project that will allow Lazarus to read the information that we've added to our database. So I'm opening Lazarus, and I'm using version 1.2.4, which is the latest. Okay, and as some of you know or don't know, this is the form part of Lazarus. This is the source code editor of Lazarus. This is the error dialog box if you have any problems. And this is the famous object inspector, which comes along with Delphi as well. So from here I'm going to name my form. I'm going to change the name of my form to FRM SQLite test. This is so that we know what it's all about. SQLite test. Okay, and if I hit enter, you'll see there it changes the name of the form, and this you can go back and you can change the name under the caption option so that it doesn't show the exact name that you've labeled the form, but that you can call it whatever you feel like it. SQL test, I'm going to call it SQLite, yeah, test database application. Alright, so if I change the caption, I hit enter, you can see there we go, it's gone and named my form a pretty name. Yeah, not a very practical or fun one, but yeah. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to need to add our SQL components onto SQLite components onto our form. So firstly, what we do is we add a SQL connection, SQLite connection. If I'm not mistaken, you've got to navigate to SQL DB tab, and you'll see there's a lot of different options here to add whatever option you choose, whatever database you've got. It basically covers a lot of them. This one, as you can see, it's called SQLite 3 connection, so you can click on that. I normally drag it and drop it onto the form. You can also double click on it and it'll add a connection to your form. So there's my SQLite connection. The next thing that you need to add is a SQL transaction, or SQL query, or a data source. So all of these are generally under the data access, if I'm not mistaken. There's your data source, so we can add that here. Okay, double clicking works. Just stick to the double clicking part. Okay, if I go back to the SQL DB, looking for a SQL query, which is this one here. Okay, now I've got my SQL query and I'm looking for a SQL transaction, and that is this one here. Okay, so there I've got all my key elements that are required to connect to my SQLite database. SQLite connection will not work unless this SQLite DLL file is saved in our projects folder. And when I talk about projects folder, I click on here, I go file, save all, and I don't save my project under here because it's not going to see my DLL file. So I'm going to click on the C drive. I'm going to go to that Lazarus SQL folder that I've created, and I will call this SQLite underscore P, because in Delphi come Lazarus you need to remember that you get two different type of files. The one is a project file, and that's saved as type as LPI, and the other one is a unit file. Okay, so this was the project file, so I click on save, and now this is the unit file. So I will change this to U so it represents the unit file. Now I click on save. Okay, so now that that is saved, I want to add a button, I want to add a label, and then I'm going to start adding commands. I need to add also a data set, or a data grid as they call it. So I just need to find the data grid. As far as I can remember, it should be under standard. I'm just going to pause the video while I find it, and then I'll come back to you once that's done. Okay, I found it. It's under data control, and you'll see here it's called a TDB grid. Double click on that and it adds it to my form. I'm going to make my form a bit bigger, not that I really need it to be too big. The reason being is I forgot to specify the data width of my columns, but that's not too important at this point in time. It's just that when the program does open, you might find like some of the information looks like it's missing, because it uses the full text column in order to fill this data grid. Okay, and from here we're going to go to the it's normally the common standard, and I'm going to add a button, and from this button I'm going to call that connect. So from here I'm going to go to the name and call it btn connect. Okay, and I'm going to change the caption on this button to show as connect. Alright, and just to help us so that we can identify, here's a label, and I'm going to call this label also connect. This is going to identify if we are connected or not, and it'll change the status for us whether we connected or not. So let's just change this, LBL connect. Okay, and I will leave it as label 1, but you can change it whatever you want the name to be, but let's just actually change it so it shows not connected for when it's originally opened. Okay, not connected. Okay, so that sorts that side out. Okay, the next thing what we do is we're going to add our code, and to do this, if we scroll down here, you will see it's Lazarus has already added all the different types that we are using in our program. Okay, so we want to go to our connect button and make use of the click option of it. And if we look in our code, you'll see there it says button, connect, and click. Okay, so from here we type in our SQLite connection. We've got to remember whatever name we've given this is the name that we have to use in this command. Okay, or in this piece of code. And as we know, Delphi can be quite code sensitive. I'm going to pause this video while I type out the code, because my typing skills are a bit slow, but I'll show you the code once we're done. Okay, so I'm back. I've copied the code in here. As you can see, this is the actual part to the file. This initiates the transaction, and this is where your select statement starts from. Okay, and then this thing tests whether you are connected or not, and will pass it to the label if you are connected. Okay, and this part here shows that you are creating your data source, your data set, through your query, which is from this command, and then this command here passes the information to the data grid. Now I want to show you a simple test. Because of my bad database creation skills, you'll see that the results of this first one will be just memo, because there is no ID created. I see SQLite does require a user defined ID, in which case I'll show you another table database which I've created. So if you click on run, you will see the 3 rows will still come up, but not reflecting the correct information. So you click on connect and you see this. This is because of my database not having any unique ID. Now I've created a unique ID in another database file, and I've just called it SQL test2. I can click on start here, and you'll see that it will bring through the correct information as per my test 1. But what I did was I created a unique ID column, and I changed these values to nvarchar instead of text. So this is to show that Lazarus can interact with SQLite. Okay, to do that, just hold on. Okay, and so that is the end of this video, this explanation. I hope that it has been worth your while and your wait. I thank you very much. Goodbye.